Hello, YouTube divers. This is Waterdive 122, and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Marching Band and Drum Corps Review. I'm speaking a little bit softly because it's late at night here in my college dorm room. I'm just trying to be a little bit considerate here. Um, so that's why I'm speaking a little bit softly here, but um, all that out of the way. We're here to talk about the remaining bands from the 49th Annual Land of the Sky Band Festival at Inca High School in celebration and anticipation of their 50th anniversary, which will be at the time of this recording, this coming Saturday, which is big deal for them. I know with the recent hurricane that we've been having, at least the tropical storm that's been going around the area, there there has been some speculation on whether or not this festival will be able to continue this year, which I hope and pray that it does. But for right now, Inca has rescheduled all of the bands, so the festival will start an hour later than it usually does. But we're not here to talk about that. We're going to be talking about classes 3A, 3AA, 4A, 4AA, and 5A. From the 49th Annual Land of the Sky Band Festival. The morning bands, classes 1A through 2AA, they had some great bands, but obviously these evening bands and night bands are the best of the best, I would say, because the shows are getting more complex, the bands are getting bigger, and it just leads to a more entertaining show, in my opinion. Um, so, and this batch in particular, there were a lot of shows that I really enjoyed. So just because a band here, and this goes for any marching band or drum corps that I review, most of, if not all the time, I enjoy pretty much every single one of their shows. So I mean, it would really they would have to do really hard to make a bad show. But for the most part, all these shows are great. It's just a matter of it's just my own personal opinion on how I view these shows. So yeah, there's that. There's that. All right, so enough housekeeping. Let's get into the reviews. So starting off in class 3A, we have 4 bands. This is the last class with 4 bands in the same class, competing class. The first one is the Clyde A. Irwin Marching Warriors with their show Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, yes, this is exactly what everyone is thinking about. This is another tribute show, but this time they are tributing the music from the Pirates of the Caribbean saga, playing a lot of classic themes from the show and from the movies. And for the most part, it's fine. It's fine. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I mean, I think it's still a pretty freaking decent show. One thing that I've really noticed with the Marching Warriors over these past couple of seasons is that they've been doing a lot of tribute shows, and I think that's what a lot of high school marching bands are doing in the post-COVID world, when they're trying to rebound following the devastation that was the COVID-19 pandemic, which really shut down high school marching bands across this area, and really all over the country for that matter, and dare I say even all over the world. And Irwin was no exception. They were definitely hit very hard with this pandemic. They had one of the most amazing and one of the most entertaining bands out there. They delivered a great show in 2019. It was like a circus themed show. It was really cool. But here they kind of stepped down just a little bit from that glory, and unfortunately they are my least favorite band from Class 3A. Their show wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I really liked their percussion. I thought the guard was pretty good. The winds were kind of meh, honestly. But they were good enough to get the job done. I'll just put it to you that way. I mean, but considering how many other super strong bands there were in Class 3A, unfortunately, Irwin had to be last. So Irwin had a great show, just there were better ones. So let's get into them. Next up, we have the Tuscola High School Marching Mountaineers with their show Blackbird Set Free. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is my favorite show from Class 3A and one of my favorite high school marching band shows from this past season. I thought the concept was super unique. The props were really well made, well designed. I mean, the freaking drum major podium being decorated as if it was a bird cage, and then at the very end of the show, that visual of their drum major dressing up in full blackbird feathers and then just flying away as the last notes played. Oh my god, so freaking great. The percussion was great. The winds are great. It's just, if you've been paying any attention to the Marching Mountaineers in these last couple of seasons, then you pretty much know what their standard is. Great shows delivered with great winds and great musicality as well as fantastic visuals. And in my opinion, this is the best show that I've seen from the Marching Mountaineers, which was just crazy because they delivered a great show in 2022 with Uninvited. But in my opinion, Blackbird Set Free it tops it. Probably my favorite high school marching band show from this past season. I was lucky enough to see this show live twice when I saw Tuscola at Tournament of Champions here at Western Carolina University last season. Fantastic treat. Fantastic treat. I'll tell you that right now. It's such a surreal show. So freaking surreal. I love it so much. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 show. And for context, Irwin gets a score of 7.9 out of 10. I forgot to mention that, but Tuscola gets a 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10 show. One of my favorite high school band shows that I've seen in recent memory, and possibly my favorite show from this past season when it comes to Western North Carolina high school marching bands. So, congratulations, Marching Mountaineers. Alright, and then coming up next, we have the North Buncombe High School Marching Blackhawks with their show Upside Down 1985, basically a tribute to dance music and music from 1985. My favorite thing about this show was the props. The props were really well made. I especially really love that giant jukebox on side 2. If you know, you know. And this is another show that I actually got to see live when North Buncombe came to Tournament of Champions this past season. They delivered a really solid show. They unfortunately did not make it to the finals, hence why I only saw them once. Yeah, but they delivered a really solid show. And here at Inca, it was no exception. I think this is another really good show, but sort of like with Irwin, it just doesn't really fit in with me. Again, it's just my bias towards tribute shows that kind of just creeps around the corner a little bit. I tried to hold it at the door, but at the end of the day, bias is bias. But I mean, I really love the percussion. I think that was the standout, definitely. The winds were pretty good. The visuals were really nice. I already mentioned the props. The guard was great. Really great show from start to finish. I feel very comfortable giving it a score of 8.4 out of 10. I think it was a really nice show. Like with Irwin, they're just better bands, I think. So, with that said, North Buncombe gets the bronze medal in this class. 8.4 out of 10. Let's move on. So to wrap up the Class 3A, we have the North Henderson High School Marching Knights with their show, Hope for tomorrow. Um, yeah, I had some really big expectations for North Henderson going into this because I saw them at Inca in 2019 when they delivered Man in the Box, which was a very popular show. I believe they went to a sweepstakes award at that particular contest, and in my opinion, it was very well deserved. That was a great show. And then even all these years later, North Henderson still proves that they are a marching band powerhouse. Um, and this show, dare I say, tops Man in the Box, in my personal opinion. This is my second favorite show from this batch, from Class 3A. A very solid score of 9.5 out of 10. The only reason why it's not getting a 10 is because I felt like the color guard was just a little bit weaker in some areas. And I felt as though maybe it's just me not understanding the whole concept of the show, um, as well as um, other smaller elements here and there that's preventing it from getting a 10. But I mean, it's very close. It's a 9.5 out of 10. Still a really fantastic show, and another one of my favorite shows from the Marching Knights. What more do you want me to say? So with that said, North Henderson gets the second place, gets my second place vote in Class 3A, score of 9.5 out of 10. Way to go. Now moving on to Class 3AA, we have our first class with 3 bands. So we have the Hickory High School Marching Red Tornadoes with their show Forged. Basically, the whole theme of blacksmiths and create the power of creativity. And I will say that this is the weakest show from Class 3AA in my opinion, but I'm still very comfortable giving this a score of 8.7 out of 10. Yeah, generally speaking, I think this could have been better if it had, I would say, like more effective visuals and maybe some more detailed props, things like that. Maybe a bigger wind sound. Soloists were really strong. I would have preferred if there were maybe a couple of microphones out there on the field because I couldn't really hear the soloists a lot throughout the show. But I mean, what I did hear sounded good, so there's that. And overall, I felt like the show had a really nice theme and concept. I don't know, the delivery just wasn't, it was there, but it didn't leave me wanting more. I'll just put it to you that way. But still an 8.7 out of 10 for a bronze medal in this class. Really, really good show. Next up, we have the T.C. Robertson High School Marching Rams with their show To the Stars. Now, Robertson was arguably my band of the year in 2019 when I saw them at A.C. Reynolds High School at the Cedar Cliffs Classic Tournament of Bands, which I might make a separate video on that competition. Who knows? Yeah, and I will say the show that they delivered that season in 2019, it was like a Bollywood-themed show. I don't exactly remember what the show was called, but it was just an absolutely stunning show. They ended up winning the Grand Champions Award at that competition. Very well deserved. And with this show, To the Stars, they once again prove that they are still a very, very nice visual band. The guard was definitely the standout, if you ask me. And I was also a big fan of their props, as gimmicky as like outer space shows and star shows kind of are. I felt like Robertson delivered some really nice visuals, really nice musicality and really nice general effect elements that made the show that more entertaining. Um, yeah, I mean, To the Stars, definitely a little bit of a step down, in my opinion, compared to what they've done in previous seasons, but I mean, this is still a really, really good show. And it gets the second place medal with a score of 9.3 out of 10. Really, really, really love the show. And lastly, to wrap up Class 3AA, we have the Pisgah High School Band of Bears with their show Coming Home. Now, outside of the marching band field, I am the biggest Pisgah hater that you will probably ever see, except, I mean, like outside of Tuscola. Me and Pisgah High School have not really had the greatest of pasts. I mean, being a Brevard kid, that, yeah, Pisgah was always a thorn in our sides. But the only positive thing that I can say about Pisgah is their band. I absolutely love the Band of Bears. They are one of the best high school marching bands in the area, along with Tuscola, Inca, all the Buncombe County bands, all that stuff. And with this show, this is the best show that I've ever seen from the Band of Bears. I'm just going to be honest. This is one of those shows that I can vividly imagine the concept, and I can pick it out, totally pick it out. So basically, from my viewpoint, the concept of the show is relatively simple. Over the past few years, Pisgah, I mean, the town of Canton, where Pisgah is from, has had a lot of struggles throughout the years. With Pisgah Memorial Stadium with their new turf job at Pisgah Memorial Stadium getting destroyed by Tropical Storm Fred back in 2021, I believe, yeah. And then most recently with Canton's famous or infamous, depending on where you're from, paper mill that closed down. I believe it was either last year or 2 years ago. I can't exactly remember, but yes. So Pisgah's had a lot of struggles over the years, and these last two shows from the Band of Bears have just been kind of in that theme of Canton, as well as celebrating their home place. And in my opinion, with this show in particular, Coming Home, the Band of Bears absolutely delivers it. The music was just freaking gorgeous from start to finish. The guard was beautiful. The percussion was great. And even the vocalist in the second movement. And just that climax midway through the second movement, when the vocalist stops singing and then the band just kicks in. Oh my god. It's astounding. I actually did some research, and Pisgah ended up winning the Grand Champions Award from this festival. Well deserved. Well freaking deserved. This is another 10 out of 10 show, and another one of my favorite shows from this past season. So, congratulations, Band of Bears. So now let's move on to Class 4A, where we have another batch of 3 bands. We're going to start off with our first non-North Carolina high school band, the Spartanburg High School Marching Vikings from Spartanburg, South Carolina, with their show Living Colors, Colors of Emotions. This was a very unique show. To this point, the best props that we've seen so far. Those colors, the colored flags, the stages. Oh, so good. So good. But I feel as though that the music was sort of lacking. Like, I mean, it was executed pretty well, I'd say, but I don't know. I would have preferred it if the Winds just had a little bit more power in their sound. Um, I really like the percussion arrangements here, as well as the front ensemble work, as well as the guard was beautiful. The guard was great. Um, the guard, oh my gosh, so good. Props and visuals, all great. But unfortunately, everything else kind of holds it back from me giving the performance a higher score. But I still feel very comfortable giving this a score of 9.6 out of 10. This is the second place finish of this class. So for silver medal, I think 9.6 out of 10 is pretty darn good. And near perfect score, I wish it just had a couple more spices to some of the minor elements within the show, but then other than that, it's very close to being a 10. Let's move on. So, moving on to the AC Reynolds High School Marching Rockets with their show Exile. Now, this is my favorite show from the Class 4A bands, and it gets a score of 9.8 out of 10. The guard was the standout, in my opinion, definitely, as well as the percussion. The Winds were the best in this class, in my opinion. The props were really well made, well designed. I especially really love that overhanging banner that they used. I believe it's near the end of the third movement, I would say. But it was very, very nice. Great touch. Great show. What more do you want me to say? 9.8 out of 10. Just barely edges out Spartanburg. And the only reason why it does edge out Spartanburg is because I feel like Reynolds has those elements that I was looking for within the Spartanburg show that was not present in the Spartanburg show, if that makes sense. But overall, really strong performance by the Marching Rockets. Loved it. Now, moving on to our last band in Class 4A, and they get the bronze medal here with a score of 8.9 out of 10. We got the Volunteer High School Marching Falcons from Churchill, Tennessee. So our first Tennessee band with their show, Black Widow. I will just go ahead and say that the visuals were really, really nice. The guard was great, and in my opinion, the Winds were really great. Percussion was great. I think the guard was the overall standout. Visuals and props as well. Just some really great stuff from the Marching Falcons. I really wish I had more to say about them, but I'm honestly finding the words a little bit difficult. But I mean, yeah, Volunteer, a really solid show. There's just better ones out there, but 8.9 out of 10, nonetheless. Really good stuff. Next up, we are in the Class 4AA. So this is the first of two classes that have two bands per class. So Class 4AA, the first band we're going to be talking about is the Newton Conover High School Red Devils marching band with their show Worlds Apart. Now, I will just go ahead and say that the Winds and Drumline, they were the standouts of the show, definitely. The props were a little bit lacking. I don't exactly know what they were trying to go for with the props. I mean, they were all moved around the field pretty well. The visuals were definitely attention-grabbing, so to speak. The guard was pretty good. Like I said, the music definitely stood out, to me at least. And they get the silver medal in this class with a score of 9.2 out of 10. So, congratulations, Marching Red Devils. Now, moving on to our last band in Class 4AA, we have the Asheville High School Marching Cougars with their show Agent 54. I believe this was the only band that was in the show that only had musical arrangements from like one theme. Everyone else had at least 2, 3, or 4 songs that they were going for, but Asheville had a whole theme behind their show, like an overarching theme, and it provides a really nice touch. The winds were great, the guard was great, the percussion was outstanding. From what I remember, they didn't have any props, but they more than made up for it with their very nice, powerful, enriching, and engaging sound. The Marching Cougars were always very entertaining to watch, from my perspective anyway. And they once again delivered here. Great stuff from the Asheville High School Marching Cougars. And they get the first place prize from Class 4AA with a score of 9.5 out of 10. They barely edge out Newton Conover. These two bands are pretty much on the same level, in my opinion. I just like Asheville's I thought Asheville's execution of their show was a little bit more stronger than Newton Conover's, but generally they're pretty much equal. What more do you want me to say? And then finally, the last competing class at this band festival, we have Class 5A. We have 2 non-North Carolina bands competing in this class. You have the Tennessee High Mighty Viking Band with their show, The Last Straw. The Last Straw was a really nice show. I really liked the props that they used throughout the entire show. That whole feeling of being in a corn maze takes me back to a lot of those times where me and my family would go out to our local corn maze and we would, hike around the maze. It's so much fun. The visuals were very engaging. I think those were the standout, definitely. The props and visuals, general effect. I think that was the standout element, definitely. The music was great. They sounded really good. The guard was beautiful, as always. Tennessee High has kind of developed a reputation where they deliver killer shows every single year, and for good reason. They're one of the best bands in East Tennessee. So there's that. Really love the Mighty Viking Band, and I'm really excited to see what they do next year over at Inca. But unfortunately, they're not good enough to get the first place award from me. They get the second place award with a score of 9.4 out of 10. I think this was a really good show from start to finish. But the next band that we're going to talk about is in a league of their own, pretty much. And let's go ahead and talk about them right now. So the final competing band at the 49th Annual Land of the Sky Band Festival is none other than the Boiling Springs High School Bulldog Band with their show Starbright. This is another show that I got to see in person when Boiling Springs came to TOC, and I have a whole video of it on YouTube. You could go see it. I might link it down in the description as well. But Starbright, much like with Tuscola and Blackbird Set Free, Starbright was one of my favorite shows from this past season. Honestly, I think the props are at their peak at this show. The props were just so beautifully made. The uniforms, the new yellow starry uniforms, so good. The visuals were great. The marching was great. The music was great. The soloists were great. But in my opinion, the best part of this show is the guard. The guard was just stunning. Every single freaking way possible. They were absolutely stunning. Those yellow dresses, that beautiful choreography, just feels like that I'm in outer space. They look like a bunch of shooting stars out there. I'll just put it to you that way. And a lot of people might question, why is a BOA contending band competing at such a smaller high school competition? I mean, it's true, Boiling Springs has been a BOA contending band for quite some time. And especially this year, they went on a lot of BOA tour stops, Bands of America, where they performed this show. I'm so happy I got to see it. I'm so happy I got to see it. It was an experience I will never, ever forget. Boiling Springs gets this is another 10 out of 10 show. I mean, what more do you want me to say? Another one of my favorite shows from this past season. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it. Okay, and now before we get into the exhibition bands, we're actually going to go ahead and rank my top 5 bands from each marching band category. So top 5 winds, top 5 percussion, top 5 guard, and top 5 props and visuals, aka general effect. So we're going to go ahead and do this. So for top 5 wins, at 5th place I have the North Henderson High School Marching Knights. 4th place I have AC Reynolds. 3rd place I have Boiling Springs. 2nd I have Tuscola, and number 1 I have Pisgah. And I have 2 honorable mentions here, one for Tennessee High and one for Asheville. So congratulations to you all. Top 5 percussion. At number 5 I have Boiling Springs. Number 4 I have North Buncombe. Number 3 is I have AC Reynolds. Number 2 I have Pisgah, and number 1 Tuscola, with honorable mentions going to North Henderson and Asheville respectively. Top 5 color guard, I have 5th place I have Tennessee High. 4th place I have AC Reynolds. 3rd place I have Spartanburg. 2nd I have Tuscola, and number 1 Boiling Springs, with honorable mentions going to TC Robertson and Pisgah. And then lastly, top 5 props and visuals. Number 5 I have Spartanburg. Number 4 I have Number 2 I have Boiling Springs, and number 1 I have Tuscola, with honorable mentions going to TC Robertson and North Buncombe, as well as Pisgah. So I got 3 honorable mentions there. So with that said, those are all the competing bands. I'm going to briefly talk about the exhibition performers. We got the Inca High School Marching Jets, as well as the Western Carolina University Pride of the Mountains Marching Band, aka my band. So let's actually start off with Inca first. So the Inca High School Marching Jets delivered their 2023 show entitled Revival. And Revival was a really good show. I really loved the props that they used, but Inca is mostly known for their visuals, visual execution, as well as their musical execution, and they were both clicking on all cylinders at this particular performance. Inca had a very successful season last year with this show, clapping out being ranked very highly at competitions, and they got the highest ranking in their school's history at this past Tournament of Champions. I believe they finished 5th or 6th overall at last year's Tournament of Champions here at WCU. Well deserved, in my opinion. Revival is such a good show, such a great show. I love it. I love it. Inca is just another case of the Marching Jets just being absolutely on point. What more do you want me to say? And then lastly, the final band we're going to be talking about in this series is the Western Carolina University Pride of the Mountains Marching Band, with their show Feeling Lucky. I marched in this show, so I'm going to try and leave my biases at the door, but I will say that our night performance was definitely better than our afternoon performance. The afternoon performance was hot, it was muggy, people it just wasn't really the best environment for us. But then the night show came. It was cooler. It was the perfect type of atmosphere. We were all hyped up, and we delivered a really good show. What more do you want me to say? It was a lot of fun. Feeling Lucky was a great show to be a part of, and I was very happy to be a part of the show. We made a lot of great memories at that exhibition last year, and I'm really pumped to go back again, barring any weather changes. Knock on wood. So with that said, this is an extremely long video. I'm very happy. I mean, to all those who have made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to the next episode of Marching Band and Drum Corps Review. So with that said, thank you so much for watching my fellow YouTube divers. This is Waterdive 122 signing out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thank you for watching.